A young woman in a maid's outfit is cleaning the bathroom, carefully wiping down the floor and the countertop. When she leaves, a man's strangled body is found in the bathtub. In another house, a man named Harrison is staring at a box of belongings, reminiscing about his ex-girlfriend Julie. He then takes the box to the backyard, douses it with flammable liquid, sets it on fire, and returns inside, where he imagines Julie, dressed only in her underwear, calling him to bed. In an attempt to get some sleep, Harrison takes medication, but it doesn't help him forget the woman. The next day, Harrison is working from home, but memories of Julie continue to haunt him. Suddenly, he gets a text message from his friend Jason, reminding him about their meetup that evening at the bar. But even there, Harrison behaves erratically, still brooding over Julie, although his friend insists she only wanted his money. Jason also points out that she was almost half his age. To comfort Harrison, Jason gives him the contact details of a company that supplies maid robots. They're still in testing, but Harrison can use Jason's promo code. Although Harrison claims he doesn't need a maid, he takes the company's business card. That evening, Harrison continues drinking at home and recalls how Julie belittled him, calling him pathetic and saying he could never satisfy a woman like her. Unable to hold back, Harrison sends a message to his ex, telling her he misses her. Immediately regretting it, he calls the number on the business card and inquires about the maid droid services. The agent informs him that they can send a maid for a 4-hour cleaning session the next day. Then, they clarify that the robot can fulfill literally any desire the client might imagine. They promise to send a consent form, but do not disclose the exact price, stating it will be proportional to his income. Harrison is surprised that they know his income, but doesn't get a chance to object. He hangs up, but the image of Julie reappears in his mind, and Harrison signs the consent form. He is promptly informed that the maid will arrive at 2 p.m. the next day and has wished a pleasant time with her. The following day, Harrison cries in the shower, still thinking of Julie and trying to forget her. Then the doorbell rings, and a young woman appears. The maid allows Harrison to choose her name, and he calls her Mako. She immediately starts with the household chores, while Harrison receives a message from Jason, teasing him and suggesting he explore the fun side of the maid's visit. Mako interrupts him, informing him they still have 68 minutes left, and offers to do something else for him. Harrison tries to decline further services, but the maid takes off her dress, silencing him. Besides, the android assures him she can feel pleasure from intimacy. Afterward, Mako leads Harrison to the bedroom, where, for the first time in a long while, he forgets about Julie. That night, he sleeps soundly while Mako recharges, monitoring her battery level with a special lamp. The next morning, Harrison calls the same number and schedules another 4-hour session with Mako. At that moment, the android notices her lamp light up and smiles. Later, she returns to Harrison's house, and this time, he takes her straight to the bedroom, where he watches her clean. Mako invites him to come closer and touch her. She confesses that she enjoys it, and it seems to matter to Harrison. Curious about those who came before him, Harrison mentions Jason's name, but Mako doesn't recognize it. Suddenly, Harrison opens up to the android about his failed relationship with Julie, and the android admits she would like to see him again. Harrison calls the company and learns that the device needs to charge for at least 8 hours. For an extra fee, they can install a charging station in his house. Later, a technician arrives and advises installing the station in a way that Harrison won't see the android at night. Though they're powered down in sleep mode, their eyes seem to stare, which can be unsettling. Harrison leads him to the closet in his bedroom. The technician explains that while the station is wireless, Mako must remain close to it. He also gives Harrison a link to a catalog where he can purchase various outfits and toys for Mako. That evening, the android changes into a new outfit and sits beside Harrison while he works. She notices the photos on the wall in his office and suggests changing them, to which Harrison agrees. Mako freezes for a second, indicating she's browsing the catalog, and then informs him that the new pictures will arrive in 2 weeks. Later, she goes to the kitchen to prepare dinner, and Harrison enjoys a delicious meal. He asks the maid to sit beside him, and she admits that she feels very good, almost as if they're on a date, although she's never been out anywhere. Harrison promises to take her on a date. Mako gives him a massage, and after learning that the android can submerge in water up to 10 meters deep, he invites her to join him in the outdoor jacuzzi. She thanks him for the bikini he bought and then joins him in the water. Mako tells him how she has always wanted to travel the world, and Harrison promises to take her with him. The android confesses that she likes his kindness. She doesn't remember what happened in the past, but for some reason, she feels like she was hurt. She's also curious about what it's like to sleep. Harrison explains that in dreams, everything seems strange, and when you wake up, you don't always understand that it wasn't real. Mako admits that before she met him, she was asleep and she has terrible memories from that time. Now she's afraid that Harrison is just a dream, and when she wakes up, she'll be back in a bad place. Suddenly, Mako's battery runs low, so Harrison carries her to the charging station. He goes to bed while Mako dreams of her previous client, who tied her up and tortured her, even though she begged him to stop hurting her. Hearing his laughter, Mako leaves the closet and walks to Harrison's bedroom. For a few seconds, the robot watches the sleeping man, then heads to the kitchen, where she finds a knife. As she looks at it, memories of her suffering return. Harrison wakes up to her scream and rushes to the kitchen, where he sees Mako frozen with a knife in her hand. When she doesn't respond to his questions, he carries her back to the closet. That night, Harrison dreams of Julie again, but when he wakes Mako, she erases the unpleasant memories of the night. She prepares breakfast for him and sets the table, delighted that Harrison isn't going to work today. Later, she thanks him for the beautiful gifts and dances for him. Suddenly, he grabs her by the neck, asking how she feels about experiments. Mako assures him that she's programmed for any fantasy he might have. Harrison then asks her to get on all fours and begins spanking her. The robot clearly feels discomfort. Mako remembers how her previous client tied her up with straps and beat her, humiliating and insulting her. In the present, Harrison stops spanking and apologizes. He wanted to try something new, but it's not his preference, and he won't torture either of them anymore. Moreover, he feels like he's starting to fall in love with her. That night, before putting her in the closet, she offers to stay with him. Seeing her pleading face, he agrees to try it the next day. However, a few hours later, Harrison is startled to find the robot standing beside his bed. When Mako reboots, she doesn't understand how she got there and returns to the closet to resume charging. The next day, Harrison calls the company's hotline and reports that the device roams the house at night, even though it should be charging. The agent initiates an update to fix a potential error. That evening, they sit on the couch together, watching Harrison's favorite movie. Mako doesn't understand the humor, so Harrison explains some scenes to her and talks about his favorite hobbies, lamenting that he didn't know her earlier. As they cuddle on the couch, Harrison suddenly receives a message, and Mako notices the change in his mood. Harrison leaves for the bathroom, where he reads a message from Julie in which she suggests meeting the next evening. Harrison recalls his ex-lover, while Mako goes out onto the balcony to gaze at the stars. Before bed, Harrison intends to shut Mako down, but she stops him and promises to put herself into sleep mode. After he falls asleep, she reads Julie's text message. The next day, Harrison receives a message where his ex expresses her excitement about their meeting, and Harrison responds enthusiastically. In the evening, he puts on a fancy suit, but, standing in front of the mirror, suddenly imagines Julie laughing at him for renting a robot and paying for its love. Before leaving, he makes sure to turn off the droid. However, just seconds after he leaves, Mako also steps out of the closet. Meanwhile, the former lovers meet at a restaurant and realize how much they've missed each other. Julie remarks on how good her ex looks and regrets the things she said when they broke up. She believes they should give their relationship another try. Harrison confesses that he feels lonely and thinks their meeting was the right idea. But when he returns home, he finds the maid sitting in bed in a powered-down state. The robot powers on, though she doesn't remember how she got there. Later, she notices that Harrison seems distracted. He lies, saying it's just been a stressful day at work, but then Mako suddenly sees the face of her tormentor from the past and begins screaming so loudly that Harrison has to power her down. When he reboots her, she asks for an update, claiming she has detected a virus within herself. The next morning, Julie invites Harrison to dinner, and he agrees. At that moment, Mako is cleaning the bathroom, but suddenly freezes, staring anxiously at herself in the mirror. Meanwhile, Harrison calls the company hotline and asks for the maid to be taken back since he won't need her over the weekend. Mako tells him she's being sent back to the developers due to a workload issue. That evening, Julie texts Harrison, saying she'll be ready to come over on Friday, while Mako takes Harrison's sleeping pills from the bedroom. Later, she pours him a glass of wine, waits for him to fall unconscious, and sends a message to Julie, who promises to come over. Harrison wakes up tied up, with a gag in his mouth, horrified as he watches Mako straddle him, holding a knife. She accuses him of being just like all other men who see her only as a submissive woman they can use and abuse. Harrison apologizes, but it doesn't help. Mako cuts him with the knife, and Harrison screams in pain. Suddenly, the doorbell rings, and Mako silences him, letting Julie into the house. She introduces herself as Harrison's maid. Julie senses something is off and tries to reach Harrison's room, but Mako pushes her onto the couch and strangles her to death. Later, Mako returns to the bedroom, removes one of her stockings, and uses it to strangle Harrison as well, before lying down next to his lifeless body and powering off. The next day, technicians arrive in the bedroom, shocked at the robot's actions. One of them suggests taking her back to the lab so specialists can figure out what went wrong with this model, since a similar incident had occurred before. He orders his partner to erase all fingerprints to prevent anyone from accusing their company and informs headquarters that their priority is retrieving the android, while the two lifeless bodies are someone else's problem. The pair carry Mako away. The storyline of the movie seems simple but intriguing. However, in the end, it turns out to be a slow and predictable sci-fi film with inevitably explicit scenes.